Hello, my name is Conan Elliott and I'm Director of Instruction here at Camas Meadows Golf Club in Camas, Washington. And today we're going to talk about how to change a golf shaft. The materials we'll need for this, and first and foremost, was we need a heat gun. Also, we need a draw knife, we need a set of calibers, we'll need a buffing pad, shafting beads, epoxy, shafting epoxy, a wire brush, and some new ferrules. And most importantly, we need a shaft extractor. So of course, we're also going to need a golf club with a shaft in it so we can remove the shaft and replace it with a new one. So from there, we start with removing the old ferrule. The ferrule actually is a small piece of plastic that lays just above the hosel of the shaft, just as a protection, a buffer to keep the shaft more. So we very carefully slice down this and remove the old ferrule. From there, we place our shaft into the extracting tool. So we lay it in this little groove right here, which is going to slide back and forth and put pressure and pull on the head as the shaft is heated. Then we tighten the shaft down in the tool. So now the shaft is in there very snugly, so the shaft won't slide back and forth. Then on this end, we have a tightening, another wrench where we just literally pull against that until that is very snug. Once that's snug, then we'll use the heat gun and we'll start to heat this shaft up. As that shaft heats, the epoxy starts to break down, and then the shaft, the head of the club will pull off of that shaft. Once that epoxy gives way, then you can turn your heat gun off. Literally just keep screwing on that slide, and that head finally works its way off there. So there the head is off. So while that is hot, I immediately like to use the wire brush, go in and clean that out to get that old epoxy out of there. And once that shaft's removed, then I need to very, very gently get those old hard, dry epoxy spots off of there. Then we use the buffer, which literally just cleans that shaft up again. I use a caliper now, and to check that diameter. So that's a 335, which is very common. So I need to make sure that the shaft that goes in to this golf club is a 335. If it's not that same size shaft, then we'll have a bad fit into this hole right here. The inside of that definitely is 335. The face is all cleaned off. Now we'll mix our epoxy. So we put the resin in. We put a nice gobber. I'd usually mix more than I need. So now we need equal parts of the hardener. So we put the hardener right on top. These are what's called shafting beads. Shafting beads are actually very, very little, tiny, round, personally round pieces of silicone. And what it does, a lot of people do not use shafting beads. I like to use shafting beads because it's like putting ball bearings around the shaft inside the hosel, and it makes the hosel or the shaft go into the hosel absolutely perfectly straight. It aligns, helps align the shaft. Costs a little more to use shafting beads, but I think you get a lot better product. Now we just literally mix all this together. We want to fill this cavity completely up as much as we can in there. And it'll finally work its way completely all the way in. So even though it feels like it's, or it seems like it's full, it really isn't. It's just an air pocket there. So you just let it work its way around, way down. Reason we want that to fill clear up is so that the excess in there, when the shaft goes in, goes up in the center of the shaft through that hole that we drilled out to make sure that it was clear enough to receive the epoxy. That way it adheres from the inside and from the outside around that shaft. Once we get that, I usually like to clean that off. There, we get a nice even full epoxy. Now we take the shaft and literally go right in with it. I usually pull it out once to make sure and I go around a couple times and back around. Now since this one already had a grip on it, I'll have to align that perfectly. And then I like to just pop it on the ground a couple times on the other end, make sure we got a good seed. Sit it where it's perfectly aligned. And then I always leave my stick in my epoxy overnight. That way, tomorrow morning, if I can break that, I know that the epoxy is set correct and it's not an accident. So we're all done. We've got it like we need it. We just got to wait for it to dry now. So this is Conan Elliott, and that's how you change a golf shaft.